that we have a good understanding of changeovers, the traditional steps, and the two main activities that take place in a changeover, let's dive into reducing changeover times. As was mentioned earlier in the course, the reduce methodology is a more detailed method of performing quick changeover or setup improvements. Reduce is based on the SMED system, which was created by Shigeo Shingo.
Hello?
The methodology
Hello?
encompasses 6 steps that support the 3 overarching stages of a setup reduction. With that being said, one of the
Hmm.
contributing factors of a long
Hmm.
setup time is the confusion
Hmm.
associated with internal and external setup times.
Hmm.
This often results in many changeover tasks that could be completed while the machine is running, not being performed until the machine is stopped. As such,
Hmm.
setup times are much longer. So, how do we reduce setup and changeover times? Let's look at a high level of each of the stages of the reduce methodology. Phase 1 is the required data. Once you have identified the area that your changeover or setup reduction will take place in, you will need to decide what data to collect. At the heart of a setup reduction is your setup time. You can gather this by starting a stopwatch at the beginning of your setup and stopping it when the first good piece is produced. Some other suggestions for data you might want to collect are yield, cycle times, and of course, any types of variation in the changeover. The second step is called engage with value stream mapping. Now that you have decided what data you will collect and the team is focused on objectives, it's time to lay out how the changeover actually occurs in the current state. This is where you will want to collect the data you decided on in phase 1. 3 very effective methods that help reveal the current state are walking the Gemba, mapping the value stream, and videotaping it. Videotaping can allow you to slow down or speed up the process in order to see everything that is going on. What we hope to gather here is a complete understanding of the process in its current state. If inspiration hits for improvements, place them in a parking lot until the time is right and all elements of the changeover have been taken into consideration. After this, we differentiate internal and external steps. This is one of the most important steps in the reduce methodology. When you differentiate and distinguish steps that are internal and external, it becomes clear that activities like preparation and transportation of items are better done while the machine is running. This portion of the reduce methodology could result in as much as 50% reduction in your setup. After differentiating steps, we move on to undergo conversion. Now we are ready to convert internal and external setup steps. The objective here is to change as many internal elements to external steps. Some common improvements for conversion are preparing parts, tools, or information in advance of your changeover. You may also want to look for opportunities to use clamps in place of screws and bolts or minimizing the need for test runs and any adjustments associated with the activity. This generally involves 3 key activities: moving forward with your initial conversion, re examining your operations and converting any other steps that may have been wrongly assumed as an internal setup activity, and discovering ways to convert internal activities to external activities. After conversion of internal and external steps, we want to clean up the overall value stream, removing any types of waste remaining in the process. Some of the more common ways to clean up the process are by reducing the need for transportation, motion, and waiting. Oftentimes, operations can run in parallel with one another to streamline the process. As a last resort, teams sometimes look to mechanize, automate, or invest in robotic activities. These types of improvements require significant capital expenditures, which is why we want to be sure we do everything we can possibly do before looking to investments that may yield only a small cost to benefit for the outcome. As a final activity, it is important to ensure that the steps work and are in balance. We don't want to place any unnecessary strain on workers or create a process that only works for a short time. This would only result in poor yield and variation in the process. These 6 steps are only an introduction to the reduce methodology. In the next few modules, we will look at each of these steps in greater detail.